Hello, friends. Happy Wednesday to you. It is such a treat to be here with you. I hope you're having a great week. And if you're joining me on the replay, happy replay day to you as well. And I'm so excited to welcome you to today's live level up conversation.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Winnie Sun, your host, Forbes contributor, CNBC council member, and award-winning financial pro, here to keep you on top of relevant, important business news. It is always a treat to have you join us. And as you know, we'll be monitoring your comments throughout the feed. So thank you so much. And feel free to let us know where you're joining us from and what you're feeling today, because that's what's important. Let me just tell you, we are having a very special guest join us today. He's someone I've known for years. I consider him a very, very dear friend. But not only that, he's not just a great friend, but he's an incredible powerhouse and someone that you're going to want to meet. Let me just tell you that he is a senior manager of mobile media content strategy at Dolby Labs. But before we jump to him, let's talk about how the market closed, because that's in positive news. Now, we definitely needed this. As you remember, Monday and Tuesday, pretty rough days on the market as we continue to see continued invasion in the Ukraine. And so that's causing us a lot of trouble with the financial markets. And we're seeing that on gas prices in particular. You probably heard about record levels. Well, there was a little bit of good news in that the dollar per barrel actually decreased slightly today. The market definitely responded. Dow closed up 652 points in the positive. The NASDAQ closed up 459 points also in the positive. And the S&P joined up 107 points. So we'll take it. We'll take those days that we get. Now, I want to definitely share with you, though, although the market has done well today, I want to caution you getting too excited. There's still a lot to be squared away, especially on gas prices, on the cost of goods, inflation, and what the Fed's going to be doing later this month. So be prepared, and you should expect continued volatility in these financial markets. But do you know, if you're invested for the long term, I think you'll be just fine as long as you make sure, keep that diversity is the name of the game today, surely. Now, I want to introduce you to my longtime dear friend, Daniel. Daniel Chun, how are you?
I'm great, Winnie. How are you? Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being here. My friend, I have wanted to have you on this show for some time. Let's go ahead and share some love real quick. As we mentioned, Daniel is joining us from San Francisco. And in his role at Adobe, he's responsible for driving the development of a multi-year content strategy that successfully enables Adobe technology in the mobile media space. Really hot area. This is definitely something we're going to talk about. He also served as senior business manager of Dolby Atmos content distribution. But prior to Adobe, Daniel served as corporate communications manager at NBC Entertainment and also another company called DreamWorks Animation, where he was a public relations manager there. And he also oversaw the communication strategy for the launch and expansion of DreamWorks' global television business enterprise. And you may have heard of a very popular movie, Kung Fu Panda 3 in China and Korea, where he saw and he helped contribute to record-breaking opening weekends in both territories. So congratulations, Daniel, to all your successes, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Winnie. Excited to be here. Thanks for that really flattering introduction.
Well, it's all true. And I got to just mention, I'm not, in addition to that, one of the nicest human beings that I know, and certainly a lot of fun to hang out with. I want to talk about this, Daniel. You and I have known each other for quite some time. And actually, if you could hear me talk about you when you're not around, you probably would want to leave the room because I'm such a fan of you. But for those who perhaps aren't as familiar with you and your work, I was wondering if you could share with us your backstory and maybe your own personal yes factor.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share that. I've had a really interesting career trajectory that I would not have expected if you asked me that question over 10 years ago when I graduated from UC Berkeley. Originally, growing up, I really wanted to work in politics, and I remember working in the California State Senate when Governor Schwarzenegger was in office way back when in 2010, 2011. But working in the state capitol, as exciting as it was and as fun as it was, and I still love politics and I'm still involved on a personal level, contributing and getting involved with the causes and candidates I believe in, ultimately decided I did not want a career in that space, just given a lot of the turmoil, the dysfunction, and the challenges. And going through UC Berkeley, I kind of stumbled upon a professor who kind of acted as a mentor to me that introduced me to the world of entertainment and sports. I actually took an introduction to sports marketing class. He happened to also simultaneously be a talent agent at the biggest talent agency in the world, Creative Artists Agency. If you've ever seen the old HBO show Entourage, Entourage is kind of from that world of screaming talent agents. Although good thing is my mentor was not a screaming talent agent. And so, he introduced me to that world. I got an internship at CAA. It's hard not to fall in love with entertainment when you get your first exposure to it, hanging out with actors and actresses and talking to producers and directors and writers. And ultimately, working with different storytellers of all stripes and types, and fell in love with it and decided that's kind of what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It was be engaged with storytellers of different kinds and different genres and different mediums. And so for the last 10 plus years, I have worked in some capacity working with creators, whether it was working in production on animated films at DreamWorks Animation, as you mentioned, or moving into PR and strategic communications at DreamWorks, working on international film publicity, or the new TV business with Netflix, or then moving to NBC and doing CorpCom. And then ultimately that led to where I am today at Dolby, yes, the audio and imaging company that I think a lot of people might be aware of, overseeing our content strategy. So while I now work at a tech company in San Francisco, which is different and exciting, I'm still doing what I've done for 10 years, which is working with storytellers to empower and elevate their storytelling. This time, though, doing it so with Dolby's amazing technology innovation.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, Daniel. I mean, you have tremendous background in entertainment, and then now you're transitioning, or you're now at a tech company, right? So I'd love to see if you can talk about some of the differences you've experienced, or some of the synergies you've experienced as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I remember a few years ago before I even joined Dolby, and this was when I think the streaming revolution was really starting to take off. Netflix was being really successful. They were scaling their digital strategy. You were starting to hear rumblings of Apple wanting to start a video business, streaming starting to become more important. That I kind of thought to myself, looking at where entertainment's headed, it might behoove my career well if I kind of try to merge into that world of tech, seeing that the world of entertainment and technology were going to be so closely aligned. And luckily for me, a college friend of mine has worked at Dolby now for over 10 years, and he's the one who invited me and opened the door and said, hey, I think you'd be really great here. Since joining Dolby for a little over 4 years ago, actually last week was my 4-year anniversary. It's been really exciting. It's been fun. I have to say it's also been challenging. I am not a technologist. I don't come from the technology space. I'm not an engineer. Going into a company in which our core products and technologies are audio encoding and SDKs and things, and audio codecs, things of that sort, things I didn't know what they were before coming into the company. There was definitely a steep learning curve in terms of the technology. But thankfully for myself and for Dolby, at the end of the day, my job is not to develop technology. I'm not a product manager. I'm not a technologist. I'm not an engineer. I ultimately think about where the technology meets the creator or meets the content, and how that technology brings that storytelling to life in spectacular ways. And when Dolby can do that successfully, that's when and how our business really thrives, when we bring that spectacular innovation. So it's been a steep learning curve, but it's certainly been a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing kind of where the next evolution of Dolby goes, particularly as we have really good strength right now in streaming film and television, but there are a lot of other areas of storytelling that I think we're eager to dive into.
Daniel, I've heard you say that you definitely felt that there was a benefit to coming from a profession or experience of PR.
Yep.
And so I think
Yep.
a lot of people will wonder, first off, Daniel, if you can answer this. I know I met you at DreamWorks Animation years ago, and you have a background in public relations. A lot of people think, well, I want a role in public relations. First off, if you can answer that, how did you get that role in public
Yeah.
relations, and
Yeah.
how do you find it to be beneficial to what you do today?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And by the way, sorry, if you hear shaking and drinking, it's my dog walking around and doing things. It's the joys of working from home. Yes, I have told you many times that I think coming from PR was a huge boon. And some people may recognize that. Some people may go, oh, that's interesting. At its core, I think one of the greatest strengths that any individual can have in whatever the professional role may be, particularly as you move up in responsibility in terms of managing a team, talking to the outside world, dealing with external customers, dealing with executives, or being an executive yourself, at its core, I think what drives one of our most important aspects of working together is communication, or the ability to communicate and tell stories. Whether you're a salesperson selling a product or a service, whether you're an advisor, whether you're a consultant, whether you're a product manager, I do think one of the key things that can bring incredible strength to the table and allow you to leverage your own strengths really well is your ability to tell a story, whether that's a story about your company, your product, or even yourself, as I'm doing right now. And I think PR taught me quite a bit in terms of understanding, thinking about who is your audience, what are you trying to communicate to them, and are you communicating it to them in an effective way? And the lessons that I've learned, whether it's selling animated movies, sorry, my dog, animated movies, or NBC TV shows, or telling a corporate story about the digital evolution of NBC, that bears true in what I do at Dolby today, and whether it's talking to our streaming partners about the way in which Dolby Technologies enhance their offering, or talking to creators in the mobile media space or the social media space and having conversations with them about, hey, what can we bring to the table that really elevates your storytelling? I do firmly believe that my career in PR, and more importantly, my mentors, my bosses, my colleagues in PR were the ones that really enabled me to be able to garner those, to grow those skills and leverage them now in my career today.
I love that. It's so true. Storytelling is so powerful, and what an important skill to learn. Something I know many of us actually didn't learn that well in school, but through experience and I think one thing that you talked about, you just touched upon, is having mentors, having, like you said, bosses and people, and having that community. And you've done a great job of making sure that you really embrace community, even in organizations that you're a part of. And I want to see if you could share a little bit about that too. Because when I think of you, Daniel, I think of you as a natural giver, a natural connector, and that isn't just personal, but also in business. Can you talk about why this is so important to you?
Yeah, and by the way, Winnie, I think the exact same thing of you. I think those same exact phrases and words that you just used about me with respect to you. But I mean, look, I recognize the reason why I've been able to have such a exciting and illustrious career thus far, working for these different companies, is squarely because of the people before me that have given me the opportunity to take on these roles and learn and grow and have these responsibilities, right? And do these exciting things. Entertainment is a fairly closed off industry. It's actually much smaller than I think people recognize. If you're in entertainment, you kind of know who are the other people working at the other studios, and getting a job in that world can be challenging, to say the least, especially if you're just submitting a resume cold. And so I am incredibly grateful, not only to the people who have opened their door, and Winnie, you and I know some of these people that I'm referring to, that have not only given me a chance, but then taken me in and taught me lessons and said, hey, I know you don't know this world. Let me give you an opportunity to learn it. Let me give you an opportunity to perform in it. Let me give you an opportunity to exceed and show people the contributions you can make to this industry. One of the things that I tell, especially young college grads or young kind of professionals in the industry coming up, when you're looking at jobs, is, hey, don't just think about the name of the company you're working for. I know a lot of people are attracted by big brands and like, oh, I want to go work for Disney and NBC, and that's all fine and good. But what I say is focus less on that and focus more on the boss you'd be working for. Focus on the individual you'd end up working on their team. And is this someone that you can see as a mentor? Is this someone who you think you have a lot to learn from? Is this someone who you think will give you the opportunity to grow? And when you're ready to move on to that next step, they're going to push you in that direction and encourage you to move to that next level. I actually think that in itself is a lot more important than just getting a job at a sexy company. If you don't have the right boss, it doesn't matter what company you're at. You're not going to move forward. You're not going to learn. You're not going to be able to exceed expectations. And so that's one of the reasons that I love to give back and tell my stories and help younger people. Is I firmly believe that not the only, but one of the key reasons I'm here today is because of the people that allowed me those opportunities.
Yeah, you've invested in those relationships, right, Daniel, at work, in the
Yes.
workplace, and professionally, personally. And I've seen that time and time again. You've really gone above and beyond, making sure that those who are in your silo are represented, that you cheer them on, you take good care of
Yep.
them. And not to mention, I also heard from a little birdie recently that you're really great at taking care of your friends and taking them to dine really well. In fact, I hear you're quite an accomplished chef as well. So very, very fun. This is what I want to ask you too, is I want to ask you this. You've obviously worked at some of the biggest companies in entertainment and technology. What do you think was the best career decision that you made?
Oh, to be honest, that's a hard question, because every job that I've had, from CAA to DreamWorks to NBC to now Dolby, I wouldn't change a thing, because every experience has taught me something. Some experiences have been harder than others. Some have been longer. Some have been shorter. But what I would say was my best career decision was early on in college. I went to the Haas School of Business, where I got my undergraduate degree in addition to getting my other bachelor's degree in political science. And a lot of my classmates were going into what a lot of people in your world also might know as the ABCs: accounting, banking, and consulting, because there are a lot of jobs. It's a secure world. It's comfortable. And a lot of people are passionate about it. But for me, there was something tugging at the back of my mind. It was like, I know I didn't really love that space. I've always loved the arts. I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved communicating. That taught me, hey, hold on, don't go pursue a career in the ABCs. Hollywood, by the way, doesn't hire ahead of time in the way that a lot of other industries and companies do, in which they say, hey, you're a senior, you're graduating, we'll interview you, we'll offer you a job so that when you come straight out of school, you know where to go, and we have that all set up for you. And again, that's all great and fine for all those people who pursue that. For me, I did take a risk, and I said, I'm not going to set up a job ahead of time. A lot of my classmates were like, whoa, doesn't that make you nervous? And it kind of did. But I took a chance. I graduated that same day. I drove down to LA. My family's ultimately from LA, so it wasn't a crazy kind of transition, but I did drive down to LA immediately. That following week after graduation, I reached out to Creative Artists Agency for a full-time job. Got a job offer, I think it was either that afternoon or the morning after.
Wow.
And decided to just dive in and jump in and take the leap, working in entertainment, an industry that I knew very little about. But that led to the next, and I've already shared that story, and I could not be happier for what that road has, the opportunities that have emerged for me because of that one decision to pursue my dreams. So as cliche as it is, I have to say I am very happy that I took that decision to take a little bit of a risk and pursue a dream of working in entertainment.
Wow, that's unheard of. Usually when you're about to graduate college, the thing that you would want to do is make sure you have those jobs lined up, and you went and I think it says something about you. So you called CA, which, we know that is sort of the highest pillar if you want to go in that space, right? Talent representation, that's where it's at. What do you think made you stand out? And why did they hire so quickly? Do you know?
I don't know. And to be fair, I just so you know, before that full-time offer, I had been an intern the summer before at the company. That being said, I think your question applies to my internship. When I applied for the internship, and even when I got in, I remember meeting all the other interns, and they were like, "Oh, I'm the son of so and so executive, or I'm related to this actor, or I know the industry because I've studied it my entire life, and I went to USC Film School." I was like the only kid that wasn't either related to someone or had grown up a huge cinephile and knowing every work of art. And I remember asking myself quite a bit, why the hell did I get this opportunity? Especially when I look at all the other interns that had gotten those opportunities. And I'll never know for certain, but I do think one of the things that made me stand out amidst the thousands of candidates that CAA gets on a normal basis, I remember talking to the recruiter and the hiring manager, and I was pretty honest in saying, hey, I don't know a lot about this world. It's, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to bullshit you. But that being said, it's fascinating to me and I love storytelling, and I will do everything in my power to learn and absorb and study and just be a sponge as much as possible. And I remember telling them, like, I'm going to go to the library and check out every book in entertainment at the Haas School of Business that I could read on. There weren't a ton of books about entertainment, mind you, but I will read everyone in there. I will subscribe to all the industry newsletters. I will read Variety. I paid $350 for a Variety subscription as a college student so I could learn what the industry terms were. And I think that radical honesty, to be honest, to be frank, is what struck a chord with the recruiter who said, I don't get a lot of kids who are that radically honest about this sort of thing. I think this person brings something different to the table. I think this individual brings a diverse voice to the table that sees the world differently than maybe a lot of the other typical entertainment candidates that we entertain. And that's ultimately, I hope, what allowed them to pick me as an intern and then led to my full-time position there.
I love it. Amazing. I mean, people are listening right now, and just incredible journey of all the positions you've had and senior positions, and now another senior position at Adobe. It's impressive. It really is. And I think that it goes back to your character, your work ethic, and your talent, your pure talent, and really that charisma of being able to connect with everybody. I mean, I think many of you would know now just meeting Daniel. I remember Daniel, it wasn't that long ago. We were on NBC campus, you and I, and we walked into the auditorium, and there's hundreds of people, and they were brought there because of you. They came to that room because of you, and it's quite remarkable. It's quite, I mean, it's very heartwarming. We got to talk about this. I think it's really important to talk about diversity. Okay, we got to talk about that. How important this to you? Entertainment, technology. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Look, I'll start by saying, and you and I have talked about this many times over the years, I think diversity is incredibly important to us, not just as hey, diversity is important because diversity is important. It is. I think I recognize that I came from a background that, as I mentioned many times, wasn't typical of entertainment. And I've also mentioned that entertainment is a closed network to a large degree, and it's difficult to break into that space. And for me to be given the chance to grow in this industry has been phenomenal. And I want other, young people or other individuals who have the aspiration and the desire and the work ethic to get in the space, the opportunity to be given that space. I don't want there to have to be a requirement just because you look some way or come from a certain background or are, a certain gender or whatever, that, you are the only one entitled to have an opportunity here. And so ultimately, I think we want all the doors open for people of different backgrounds to come in and pursue their dreams. That being said, from a business perspective as well, I actually think and I'm sure many of your guests have heard this again and again, but I firmly believe it is the right business decision to make to bring diverse voices to the table. When you're thinking about the increasingly global market, and that's certainly something that DreamWorks, NBC, and Dolby have all had to do, the increasingly global marketplace with an increasingly global audience of consumers and fans and movie watchers and content consumers, you have to think about how to bring diverse stories and products to the table. You have to think about how, when you're tackling different business problems, are the different individuals sitting around you, your team, your colleagues, the team that's being charged to tackle this particular business problem, do they all come from diverse backgrounds in a way that they bring diverse solutions to the table? The last thing you want is 10 people who all look, sound, are the same way, have the same background, have had the same life experiences, who might bring the same solution to the table, right? Versus having, hey, that one person over there with a diverse perspective brings something that the rest of the group wasn't able to think about. So whether it's from a principled position of everyone deserves a chance and everyone deserves an opportunity, or it is the right business thing to do, I genuinely believe that opens up, I think, the right kind of problem solving and ultimately the right kind of bringing products to market that bring real value to an increasingly global marketplace. I do think it's something that's important. Now, Hollywood, I think it's been pretty public, has been grappling with the issue of diversity for years. And they're going to continue grappling with it. I think a lot of companies have made a lot of strides. I think the last few years have been particularly exciting. I think streaming has been exciting because we're seeing more and more diverse stories come to the forefront. I have to say, personally, as a Korean American, I was incredibly thrilled by the success of first Parasite and then Squid Game, and there are a lot more stories to come from Korea. And that's going to continue to proliferate. I would say in tech, personally, I think that the diversity conversation has been a little bit slower. Part of that, it's because a lot of the tech industry is not public in the same way that entertainment is. It's not to say that there isn't diversity in tech. There is, but there are entire groups and populations of people with different ethnic, socioeconomic, geographical backgrounds that haven't had the same level of access to the well-paying, exciting jobs, the impactful jobs that are becoming so high in demand across social media, software companies, SaaS companies, whatever may have you. And so that is something that I talk quite a bit about, both internally at Dolby and externally. Hey, how do we really change the equation? How do we put pressure both internally and externally to increase the diversity of all different types of backgrounds? And I do genuinely believe it will make our companies and the tech industry stronger.
Tech industry stronger, certainly, and having diverse voices and be able to attract more talent, right? Because if you feel like you're welcomed and you're not the only one, you definitely feel much more welcome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Talk to me about this. Fast forward 5 years, what are you excited to see in the area that you're working on now?
I just and a couple months ago, I was put into a new role at Dolby after overseeing the content distribution strategy for Dolby Atmos, which some of your followers may know as immersive sound. It's been in the cinema, it's been in film and television. We recently rolled it out to music a couple of years ago, and that's been really exciting. I am now in charge of figuring out what role Dolby can play in elevating the storytelling and the experience in kind of what consumers generally know as social media. I'm particularly excited by the challenge because when you think about the level of content and stories that are being produced by people at home, by different creators, young and old, by people all around the world, what platforms like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Snapchat and Twitter, and Winnie, I think you're aware of this because you've obviously leveraged these tools to your benefit and amplifying your voice and your stories. It's incredible in the way that these platforms have democratized storytelling. And storytelling can mean different things. Storytelling can be you, Winnie, sharing your financial expertise or different voices at the table about this kind of stuff. It can be a food creator on TikTok sharing their recipes from Europe or Asia. I'm excited by the emergence of what a lot of people call the creator economy. It's a term that's run around quite a bit. But I'm personally excited by the role Dolby can play that as content creation and more importantly, content consumption for the masses becomes democratized, where you no longer need to be a multi-billion-dollar studio or conglomerate to be able to share these stories with the world. What kind of opportunities emerge from that? What kind of diverse stories emerge from that? And how people can really blaze their own path in ways that were unheard of before these platforms came to bear, right? That's something that I think is really exciting to me and a big part of my new role at Dolby.
That is exciting. That's really exciting. And to see that just increases global market share. It lets everybody have an opportunity to create content and to collaborate, right? And then that bridging, it's geographically irrelevant because we can come together, like you said, on these social platforms and we can create communities and we can collaborate. It's amazing. I love it. All right, Daniel. Well, I think it's that time. I'm going to have some fun now. Now we're going to introduce you to Speed Round.
Okay.
Speed round.
Thank you for so many of you joining us live today. I see so many familiar faces, and I want to say, see, Joshua, we knew that you love the speed round, song and intro, so we brought it back just for you. No, not just for you, but everybody, right? So speed round time. All right, so Daniel, we're going to give you 2 minutes to answer 2 questions. So the first question I have for you, of course, is because I know you as being the ultimate foodie, and by the way, pretty skilled in the kitchen too. You've dined and you've spent time with the who's who of the culinary world. So I'm curious to hear what's been your best meal and what made this meal so special to you?
Ooh, that is a tough question. As you mentioned, I have dined at a lot of places, but there's one meal that clearly stands out in my mind, which was, it's one of the world's best restaurants, Disfrutar, which is a restaurant in Barcelona that was founded by a trio of chefs from the now retired but very famously known restaurant El Bulli in Spain. But it's basically molecular gastronomy, where they really manipulate textures and flavors to introduce a new way of dining. It was a 30-course meal. I went by myself. It was like 3 hours. It was an insane amount of food and alcohol. It was so much fun. But one of the distinct things I remember is for the dessert course, they actually sprayed Lagavulin scotch on my hands and said, hey, rub your hands, smell them. And as you eat your dessert, which was like some kind of cotton weird thing, you will then also inhale the smell of scotch into your palate as you dine on it. It's just one of those meals that I will never forget ever.
Wow, that's incredible. And you went by yourself, 30 courses. That must have been a crazy experience. Hopefully you're able to collect some photos and whatnot. And before retirement, that's amazing. That's so good that you're able to get in there. Well, we definitely want to see some pictures at some point. All right, Daniel, next question for you then is this. You've achieved so much in your roles and you've really opened the doors for many people. I know that for a fact. I've talked to many of them. And if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see changed in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I mean, this very quickly, what comes to mind for me is what we spent quite a bit of time talking about, but it is sincerely that important to me. I would love to see more diversity in the entertainment industry, and not just in front of the camera, which I think is the conversation that most people think about. And I do want to see more of that. I want to see more, ethnicities, genders, identities in front of the camera, but also behind the camera, behind the executive chair, at the programming levels, at the development levels, at the finance levels, right? I want to see different voices coming to the table. I remember even at NBC and DreamWorks, we had Asian American groups. And we often talked about the fact that we were a minority within the industry and that we had aspirations to band together and help each other grow and succeed. So there were more of our own kind of voices and perspectives at the table, making the decisions, developing the shows, bringing the content to bear. So I would love to see more diversity over the coming years in the entertainment industry.
I'm with you. I'd love to see that too. My back history, I used to work on TV shows, America's Funniest Home Videos and Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And I always remember being the only token Asian female or Asian period on the on these sets within the production crew. But so I agree with you. Hopefully that will start to change. I think it's starting to. I think we're seeing this starting to move. I think entertainment, I feel like at least seems to be more embracing and inclusive. And so perhaps there's a lot of hope there. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. This has been such a treat. For those who are looking to just follow your journey and learn more about you, maybe they even want to connect with you, where should they go?
They're more than welcome to follow me on my LinkedIn, Daniel Chun from Dolby. Follow me there, and I'd be happy to add you and chat with you. I'm always down also as the world reopens, and if you happen to be in California or wherever I'm traveling, because I do travel a lot for work, I'm also generally happy to grab coffees with people as well. I love meeting new people, as Winnie does, so we both have that in common.
We have a lot in common. I mean, I just love spending time with you. But this is so great. I'm so glad that I was able to share my dear friend Daniel with all of you. I hope you enjoyed this session of this show as much as I do. And those of you who are watching, thank you so much for watching, supporting our program. If you don't mind, take a moment to share this show with someone that you care about. And as a reminder, you're going to be able to find full episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun on NASDAQ, the CW San Francisco, Amazon Fire, Roku, and so many more places. And don't forget, we've just launched the brand new podcast, Yes Factor. So wherever you do tune on to your podcasting, maybe it's on Apple Podcasts, look up Yes Factor with Winnie Sun. I would be grateful if you would give us a listen. And with that, be well. I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Take care now.